A Science of Change, podcasting by Gilmore Crosby, social scientist, author, and organization development professional since 1984. All right, welcome. So here we are with another podcast, and my guest today is Ukrainian social scientist Kanykei Tursunbaeva. And we have known each other for a few years, so I'm really excited to have you with us today, Kanykei. And why don't you say a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Thank you, Gil. Thank you very much for inviting me to this podcast. It's a big honor. A couple of words about myself. Yes, I'm a young scholar. I work at the European Academy of Sciences in Ukraine. I also do some journalistic work. I've been doing that for the last 10 years. And I'm also a translator and interpreter. That thing I've been doing for the last 15 years.
Sure. The first time we met, you were helping Dr. Oleg interview me, and you were the interpreter.
Absolutely. Yes, that's how we met. Dr. Maltsev is my mentor, and he's a Ukrainian scientist. In the frameworks of studying the human behavior in extreme situations, we have translated your book for our personal internal use at the Academy. The book titled Flight or Freeze or Flight, I think something like that.
Fight, freeze.
Fight, flight, freeze. Sorry, I do remember the translation of it. I didn't remember exactly how it's titled in English. So yes, he enjoyed that book very much, just the way I did and many of my colleagues here. And that's how we found out about you. And we were very excited to talk to you. Well, I was a translator, correct. But Dr. Maltsev really, really liked talking to you about the book.
Well, I'm a proud member of the European Academy of Sciences in Ukraine now, which I appreciate that honor. You're in Odessa.
Correct.
And so that's where you are right now at this very moment.
Yes, and I haven't left this country since the beginning of the war, even for one day. I've been here for the whole time.
That's brave of you. And you know, part of my interest today is to hear your experience of, your wartime experience. Is Dr. Maltsev still there with you in Odessa also?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Actually, it's because of him, thanks to him, there are a lot of many members of the Academy. 99% of them are still here. We're all safe, we're working. And he has been an extremely excellent manager in these hard times. So we're all thankful to him. Yes, he's here.
So that's amazing that you're able to carry on the work you're doing in the midst of a war zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to answer your question about, in general, I can share my subjective opinion on what is wartime for me. Well, first of all, Odessa is a relatively safe region. Not maybe as safe as it was last year, because this year we ended up having around 40 historical buildings being destroyed. And those buildings are not like somewhere in the suburbs, but in the center of this historical, extremely beautiful city. But all in all, I mean, there are, of course, regions that are way more worse, and there is nothing really, I don't have nothing to complain about. In general, I should say that wartime is, for me, again, very subjective, very personal, is an extraordinary, accelerator of skill acquisition. That's how I think. Because during the wartime, if you want to leave, you have to learn fast. If you want to leave, you have to be disciplined.
If you want to live or to leave?
To leave. I mean, to continue existing.
Yeah, to live to live.
Yes. So I think, well, also the time is a big factor. Time passes extremely fast. Gil, since the beginning of the war, I cannot believe that this is the second year of the war. It's so fast. It seems like it's been only like several months, or as if it was only, maybe not yesterday, of course, maybe several months ago. What really remember very vividly is those days. The winter times are really tough. And now we're preparing for the next winter. Because during the winter, there are days when you don't have electricity, sometimes even for 7 days in a row. Those days are very memorable, of course. But all in all, I think time passes extremely fast. But people, I think, have become more responsible, more mature with this war. It is a great challenge. It's terrible to say that it's a great challenge, but I prefer to perceive this war that way.
Mm-hmm. You seem amazingly mature about this, Kanykei.
And I think I have learned so much, Gil, that I would have never, ever learned if not for this war. I would have never, ever acquired certain qualities in myself if not for this war, really. And from one side, I'm really thankful, extremely thankful to be here. I'm not thankful, of course, for what the terrorist, our neighbor state is doing, no. But I'm just thankful for being here and living through this and being together with people that are very close to me and doing something together, for sticking together. Yeah, it is a challenge for me, and I see nothing pitiful, nothing sad or sorrow about this.
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
Well, it's inspiring, and you're certainly not wallowing in like pity, or anything like that. And
no.
And really, the whole, maybe it's the culture of Ukraine, but the way Ukraine has dealt with this in general has been very inspiring to me and to the people I know. Very inspiring. So I would say it seems like it's been going on far too long to me. So the sense of time from the outside might be different.
Absolutely, yes. To look at this in a chronological manner, it's been extremely long, Gil, you're right. And you are very kind to say that it's inspiring the way Ukraine is doing. It could be. However, from my knowledge of history, and I have really good teachers when it comes to history, it's very sad from one side because the potential that Ukraine had before, it was, I don't know even how to compare it. It was such a strong country with extremely high class of military skills. They would have never, ever let any kind of battle to last for more than a year. I mean, everything would have finished like in a week, in a month. But now we see that as time passes, as people become more civilized, and politics is a very messy thing. I don't want to even get into the politics. But when we speak about the people being too much civilized, selling this and selling those resources, and the education of military degraded. So today we have what we have. Two countries doing who knows what. But again, thank you for the kind words. And I certainly I really want this country to be independent. I really want that. However, I have stopped thinking about the war. I have stopped thinking what is going to happen with this war because it is uncertain. I mean, I'm not a military strategist or somebody who can influence that. So it's really inconsequential. It is consequential. It just brings lots of stress and it leads nowhere. So I don't think about that.
Okay. I mean, I can understand that. It must be tiresome, to say the least. So did you know that Kurt Lewin, who created the social science that leads most of my work, his first paper was about being in the war, the First World War. He started reflecting at that time on the subjective nature of reality, how we look at things. He was a soldier in the Kaiser's army, the German army. And so he just said that, look, how a civilian sees a landscape, a house, etc., and how a person, a soldier in this case, but in wartime sees it, it's just totally different. You might just admire the beauty of Odessa in peacetime, and in wartime, at least for Lewin, everything you're thinking in terms of, can I shelter there? Can I use this house? Can I use this ditch? Can I? Everything's utility of survival, which you mentioned before. And right. So really one of the first papers he ever wrote was based on his war experience. Yeah.
That's very interesting. No, I didn't know that first work of Kurt Lewin was that. The interesting part about such figures as him is that the wartime produced a lot of really great minds of our past. So it doesn't have a direct relation to what you have said. It's just, just a comment.
Yeah, of course, sadly, also, we'll never know how many great minds were wiped out.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so you end up having to figure out how to do things like get the electricity working again.
Well, in terms of skills, the first thing that I have learned and I'm still learning is the first aid.
Okay.
I am a person very far away from medical field.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to learn this, and a lot of my colleagues that also are very far away from this, we had to learn this, and we still do. So I learned a lot about the medical supplies because, there are colleagues in other regions of the Ukraine whom we send certain things when we can. And also for Odessa, because the hardest times for this part of the country will come most probably after the war ends, because after the war, there are a lot of people with lots of arms that have been shooting into something for 2 years, and it's going to be a very criminal environment, and these things are, they're the must. Another thing that, yes, I have learned all about bulletproof vests, what type of plates exist, what kind of plate can stop what kind of a bullet. I've learned all about those chokes that you put on the shotgun. There are a lot of interesting things that I have learned that are very far away from my main professional activity. And, but yeah, it's not like a burden. It's just something that must be done.
Mm-hmm.
And
do you have food?
Yes. No, it's when it comes to cities like Odessa and then almost entire of Ukraine. In the cities you have everything. You have food, maybe not as high quality or as it was in the past. Obviously, for instance, we didn't have that many of watermelons this summer. It was extremely expensive because Russians have destroyed those places where they used to grow watermelons and export them. So, for instance, that we don't have. Very few watermelons we had. Some of the products that you're used to eating, they're not available anymore. But still, it's not like we don't have anything. It could be that whenever logistics chains suffer, sometimes it could be there was a moment when there was no salt or there was a deficit of salt, let's say. But it was for a short period of time. So what we do not have or might not have is electricity and water. That's
Right.
what we have already experienced during the winter. And now we also have sometimes, like yesterday, we didn't have water for 24 hours. Today, we didn't have electricity for a couple of hours. But it's nothing like, I mean, we're very immune to this. I'll tell you something funny, Gil. A couple of months ago, Taiwanese delegation arrived to Ukraine to learn from our experience. And they have also visited our academy. And they're very sweet people. They think that China is going to invade them, just the way Russia did invade Ukraine.
Sure.
And so they were joking. They were telling that Ukrainians are very strong because in Taiwan, they're very industrious, obviously, country, especially Taipei region. The person from the representatives of one of the parties, he said, there was one time when we turned off electricity for 2 minutes. And everybody went just insane. They were calling everywhere, complaining. And he's like, I cannot imagine living without electricity for several days in a row. He says, it's going to be like apocalypse. But yeah, it is tough without.
Yeah, well, that would be a hardship. I mean, especially in the winter.
And you know, Gil, you were one of the persons, one of our friends and members of the academy who helped us out last year. And thanks to you, with our friends, we bought many, not as many generators as we wanted, but we bought some. So you also have your contribution here because the academy's building, whenever there is no electricity, we have electricity enough to charge our devices, for instance.
Well, I was certainly glad to be part of that. And it seems like such a small thing compared to what you're going through. So when we get to the end of this, before we finish, I do want to make sure that we let people know how they could contribute. So
if they want.
Yeah, if they want, that's right, which they should, in my humble opinion. Because you're also fighting, basically, I think, for democracy versus autocracy, and there's no excuse for this invasion.
Well, Gil, that's
getting into the politics briefly, but that's my view on it.
Yeah,
no excuse.
I really respect the way you think, but at the same time, everybody, every country on this planet has or have their issues, and it's not like somebody must help somebody else. I mean, who cares? Everybody has their own problems. So it's like, yeah, I don't want to get into politics, but yeah, let's move on and talk about something nice.
Okay, no worries. You have a great attitude, Kanykei. So, well, how about a little bit of anything else you want to say about living in your experience of the wartime conditions there? That's fine. And then I'm also curious to hear about the social science work that you continue to do in the midst of this.
Mm-hmm. So I've been asked like hundreds of times, have I seen the drones? How it feels when the rocket is flying over my head? How it strikes? I will share just a little bit about that, and I'll move on because many people are really interested. Well, yes, I've seen many drones. They can fly anytime. They don't tell us when they're going to send the drones or rockets, but. For instance, when the air raid alert intercepts, when it neutralizes the rocket, the missile, wherever they're flying over our heads, it really looks like a firework. Really, it's like not a lot of small, bright particles, but there are a few, but they're big, just like a firework. It's just very loud, extremely loud. And your body, of course, it is afraid. Every time there's a very, very heavy explosion, and if it hit, like recently, they destroyed a huge shopping mall in Odessa to zero. That was very, very loud, and some of the windows even, anything could happen. But it is scary. I'm not telling that it is like a walk in the park. No, it is scary. Yeah, no doubt about that.
Of course, and just like what you said about the Taiwanese and the electricity, if in my city we had drones coming and blowing up shopping malls, there would be a complete panic it would be chaos. So it's, it's just admirable how you and others there are handling this.
And the other thing, Gil, is really human beings are really amazing. You become immune to things. I remember myself when I heard the air raid alert for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
I was so afraid, extremely. I was like super red and sitting in the room, not knowing what to do, messaging everybody like, "Did you hear? Did you hear?" Now, air raid alert for me is like a background music. I don't care at all. Like, it's just air raid alert, just close the window. But it comes with time.
Sure.
Now, if there is a big explosions and if they're in a row, like boom, 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 I say, it's like a thunder. Sometimes, not every day. I have this type of an attitude, of course. But all in all, in general, they stop really scaring you at the way they did. Of course, when it's in the middle of the night, you're sleeping at 3 a.m. and it's something like boom, huge explosion. Of course, you wake up out of fear.
Sure.
Yeah. So now speaking about the scientific part, you're within the frameworks of European Academy of Sciences in Ukraine, we have been, working not as super actively the way we did before, of course, but our partner publications are still working. We didn't conduct even one conference since the beginning of the war because, we have to use the resources, for power banks, for the tourniquets and all those things.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of that, we have done some good things thanks to the members of the Academy. For instance, we have worked very closely with Harvey Wolf Kushner from Long Island University. And together with him and the members of the Academy here in Ukraine, we have published a special issue on the war in Ukraine in American Behavioral Scientist, Sage Publications Journal. And right now, we are about to get another special issue dedicated to terrorism. So that is a really great thing. And Harvey also said very kind words like that these issues have a value because they were written by people that are here in Ukraine. And they are writing these pieces despite the rockets, despite the, electricity, internet. We just don't do those excuses anymore. It's just, It's not funny. In the organization that I belong, we have made an agreement that if somebody didn't get done something, he or she cannot say that I didn't have electricity, so I didn't get that done. That's just funny. Because if that continues, then, it's easy to find an excuse for anything in the world and say, I didn't have electricity. You didn't have electricity? Okay, it's your problem. Go. You have to figure that out somehow. And that's been really, I'm so thankful for that, really. Because otherwise it would be a funny world, Gil. Could you imagine you have agreed about something with somebody and the person didn't get it done and says I didn't have electricity? Of course, if it's like short-term something like somebody has to get done something in half an hour, that's understandable. But if it's like 24 hours and nothing is done and excuses electricity, that's really not acceptable.
Well, again, I admire your commitment to commitments, to not making excuses, and that's I think a really helpful cultural trait in any organization. But you may be better at that than a lot of people would be.
Yeah, it's because the academy that I work at is a very, very disciplinarian institute.
Yeah.
Very, very disciplined. Way more disciplined than other organizations in Ukraine, probably. Which is the reason we are continuing working and everybody's sane. Nobody is collapsing and crying or something like that. Some of my colleagues, they have lost their parents, their relatives during this war. I mean, this is a war.
Sure.
And they're still in one piece. So another thing that we are planning, it's a very big thing for us, and I'm very excited for that because I'm one of the responsible persons when it comes to organizing the conference together with Charles University, and our academy is organizing a conference in Prague next June, and it's going to be dedicated to the future of Ukraine. It's not going to be about how bad things are, what the hell has happened. No, it's going to be about the future of the business sector, of the academic sector. So it will be more practical, and we're very thankful for this opportunity to our president of the academy, Jerry Crace. It's thanks to him and his colleague at Charles University, we ended up deciding to organize this conference. And Gil, as I have said before, we will be very honored to see you as one of the speakers at the conference.
Well, I'm excited also, as we talked about, because I will be there. And as you know, I'm actually running a T group workshop in Warsaw the following week, and another T group workshop in just south of Munich 2 weeks later. So I'm going to be there for a month in Europe. I can hardly wait. And you know, I'm thinking of two things as you're speaking. One is, it might be fun. Maybe, it's like you're saying, I think you're finding ways to still have, enjoy your life and, and gain from what's happening, even though it would be easy for me to spend some time just being angry about what's happening. But the first article by Lewin, I think I'll send it to you. I have a copy of it. Please. And, it might be possible to revisit that and have someone write an article now about the similarities between Lewin's experience and what he wrote about and what you're experiencing.
No. That's a very heavyweight thing. Lewin is a heavyweight figure. I don't think we should compare my experience to his. And you were telling about, it's easy to be angry. Don't get me wrong. There are days when I'm very angry. Yes.
Yeah.
When I'm last winter, I do remember when I was sitting in the parking lot, the house that I live in, the apartments, we have a parking lot which is used by people as a bomb shelter, and it always has an electricity and Wi-Fi. And so in the winter, I was there working with my laptop. I was freezing. And I was angry. I was like, why do I have to sit in this freezing parking lot and without, because at home, see, every house is different. Some people have gas and they can boil some water. In my case, everything is run on electricity. But again, it's all right. And, there are people that are in worse conditions than me.
Sure. But, again, I know you're not wanting to get political. To me, this is all needless. It's just about power. It's cruel. It's it's criminal. So
it is criminal.
I can understand you being angry, and it would be unhealthy to spend all day, every day being angry. But a little anger now and then probably makes sense.
Yes, it does. Speaking of criminality,
go ahead.
If I may add, I am translating at the moment magnificent monograph written by Dr. Oleg Maltsev and Dr. Harvey Kushner. The main author is Dr. Maltsev. It is dedicated to war crimes. And really, it's it's unprecedented book on on evolution of war crimes. It
Mm-hmm.
gives a lot of examples from the current war, but the book is not about the war. It's about war crimes, and it's really captivating book. I wouldn't lie, but I think this is one of those books that I'm enjoying translating a lot into English, because being a translator is a very meticulous job, which requires lots of concentration, and I don't always enjoy translating an entire book. But this time, it's really very, very interesting, very practical. The book, to put it very, very shortly, the book it basically shows that in the past, for instance, in order for the private circles or governments to be powerful, one of their elements was their private intelligence. And then private intelligence stopped being a symbol of power because people had to have something else. And we ended up having private military companies, right? That America has many, Russia has, I don't know who can say it's Russians, but we had Wagner, private military company, extremely powerful one. And now the book says that the third geopolitical threat is going to be private military administrations, because it's not enough to conquer any territory. If we look into the history, right? One has to know how to manage the territory. And in the case of our neighbor, this interesting state, wherever territories were captured by Russia, people living on those territories, they don't want to be part of Russia. And that's the huge problem. Even if that person, let's say theoretically, captures the entire Ukraine, he won't be able to keep it in order, because nobody wants to be part of Russia. That's the problem.
Yeah.
So, yes, the book is very interesting. It has lots of historical examples. It looks into the nature of private military companies, because authors of the book consider them to be purely criminal organizations.
Mm-hmm.
And we are planning to publish. We're basically talking with different publishers at the moment. Hopefully, we will get the book published in the US in English, because this part of the world, Ukrainian, Russian-speaking, former USSR, authors think that, Dr. Matsev especially thinks that they would be more receptive to read something in English.
Mm-hmm. I look forward to reading it.
Than in their native language. Because, we know that West is like a trendsetter. So everybody wants to be like West. So this was the decision that was taken. And also the other thing, when it comes to the West, they are maybe more prone to hear objectivity. They're more ready to hear the truth.
Well, at least some of us.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope that's available. And I must say, I consider the entire war a crime. So, but I know that that's not the normal way of defining war crimes. But anyway, that sounds interesting with the private military organizations. We certainly have used them, especially like in Iraq. So,
well, every country wants to have private military companies, and not only countries, like some private entities as well. And it's just not good or bad. It's just there, one of the geopolitical threats that normal people like us suffer from it, or could potentially suffer from it. But the book is going to talk about this third one that will come in the future. So once the book is out, Gil will send one directly to you.
Lovely. And you said it's not good or bad. It sounds bad to me.
I know,
So,
but this is history. It
yeah,
had
well,
existed from the past, from the Middle Ages. It
sure.
was just called
Mercenaries.
differently. The thing
Yeah.
is that people will always thirst for power, so
Uh-huh.
it's just
Yes.
there, no
Yes.
matter how we call it.
Seems like we'll probably always have war going on in the human race, but well, what else? What else are you able to do as an academy during this time?
What else? Well, most of our times is really we are busy with supplies. We have different members in different regions of Ukraine. Most of us have academy in the past year. Really, like 7 months, people have our senior management have been busy evacuating people,
Mm-hmm.
sending whatever it's needed, wherever it's needed. I've been stuck with Skype, calling different stores, trying to find the supplies, because there were moments when nothing was available,
Mm-hmm.
and like nothing. Like tourniquets were out of the stock, bulletproof jackets were out of the stock. So really, I mean, we have also a team, the rescue team. They train with the firearms every day. But really, I don't want to get too much into those parts
No
because
worries.
of security reasons. Yeah.
Sure, sure. Those are important skills also, hopefully that you won't actually personally need. But, well, you had mentioned to me that you also were like involved in consulting now on cybersecurity.
No, not me. The partner of our academy is Information Security Institute. It's one
Okay.
of our partners because academy is nonprofit structure, and Information
Mm-hmm.
Security Institute is one of our commercial. They do nonprofit researches and the commercial activity as well, such as consulting and protecting how it's called reputations of public figures, of business peoples, and they have been working, yes, a lot since the beginning of the war, to finance things because we have to somehow leave and
Sure, sure.
cover many expenses. So yes, they are working. We've been mostly they operate in Eastern Europe, Ukraine a little bit, but not as
Mm-hmm.
much as it was before because obviously lots of businesses went out of market. So so we have been talking to some of our partners in the US to bring one of our institute services to America. We're still on the stage of negotiations, and next February, I think we're going to have a big presentation that's planned to be attended by hundreds of people. I mean, it's their planned event of the county, one of the counties. So we will be just invited as guests, and we will be given like about half an hour to tell about the services provided by the Information Security Institute.
Okay, great. And so they've learned lessons during this wartime.
Extremely a lot because when
Yeah.
it comes to security, they have been actually our sanitizers of our information space because of when I say our
Sure.
organization, because when the war starts, as you can imagine, all employees of any organization, they are stuck in their phones or laptops and watching nonstop this horrible news. Some of them might be true, some of them might be not. And a person psychologically becomes completely disorganized and he doesn't want to work anymore. So Information Security Institute, they have a team which works 24 hours, processing all the news, looking what is factual, what is not. And they provided senior management with short reports on what is factually happening in which region of the world. So we don't become the slaves of this huge information trash ban, whatever. And they have been learning, yes, a lot. And some of the members of the Institute, they have provided lots of valuable information to the members of the Academy overseas that are working on the books. For instance, Professor Andy Hoskins is working on the book called, he's from Britain, it's called Open Source War. So we have organized several interviews with military for him. On the, I wouldn't say it was the military, basically on the topics that interested him, such as the use of social media, use of Telegram during the war, and topics as such.
So, part of the reason I wanted to bring it up is because one way to help support Ukraine is to support Ukrainian businesses. And so some of the listeners might have a need for or an interest in cybersecurity and so on. And they could contact you, right?
Thank you. Yes. And I'll put them in touch with right people.
And if people just wanted to donate towards things like generators.
Yeah, that's our number one priority for the winter. Because
how would they do that?
Yeah, I'll tell in a minute. There is a probability that this winter there might be no electricity at all. Not for. So we are really preparing hard for that. And now it's the time for us. We've been enjoying the summertime, this warm days a lot and working a lot, because in the winter, who knows what will happen. Yeah, if somebody wants to help out with the generators, the best way is to donate to the fundraiser that was kindly created for us by Sparse family. They are from California. And there is a link, I believe, on GoFundMe. It hasn't been active since the last year, but the link is still there. And Sparse family are very, very kind. They've been helping with that since the beginning of the war. So that could be the place.
So they would go to GoFundMe and search for...
Is there a chance that we can put the link under this podcast so people can press the link?
I can put in the notes.
Yeah, because I don't even know how they would find and GoFundMe.
That sounds like a good plan. I think when people go to listen, they at least see some information that I provide. So let's try that. And if not, they could get a hold of me.
Well, thank you, Gil. Really, I also know that situation is tough for the U.S., that there's inflation, and it's if people want. If not, I mean, in any case, we are working hard, and we are, private entity. We are not governmental organization, and we just do what is right, what we must, and keep going.
Our situation is not nearly as hard as yours, Kanykei. So anyway, back to just the social science, though. So you mentioned the event in Prague and about how to revitalize Ukraine after the war.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm again thinking about Kurt Lewin, and it's a habit of mine. And he wrote a bunch of papers that influenced the reconstruction of Germany. And
wow.
And so it was how to engage the people of Germany in creating a stronger democracy. He advised the State Department of the U.S. on that. And so I just think there's some potential links to what has already been thought through that might be helpful. So, I may bring those to Prague.
Please do. Yeah, that would be really, really interesting. Yeah. And Kurt Lewin, he was born in Poland, right?
He was in Mogilno, Poland. It was actually, at the time, it was part of Prussia.
Prussia, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think once we have the website ready of the upcoming conference and exact questions of the panels, I'll send them right away to you so you can take a look at it. And I'm sure that what you have just mentioned about Kurt Lewin's work of reconstructing Germany, that would be very relevant because, nothing is new in this world. the history repeats itself in different
Yes.
manners. So reconstruction is reconstruction.
It is, although, I mean, the uniqueness of what he wrote about in Germany was how Hitler rose to power in the first place, whereas you're being invaded by an external threat. So there's differences.
Right.
But
But it's still, it wouldn't hurt to learn from the experience of Kurt Levin.
yeah, and how to create an even stronger democracy going forward is part of what he wrote about. So, well, this has been lovely, Kanykei. So, what time is it where you are?
It's around 8 p.m.
In the evening.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. So here I am. It's just afternoon. What is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap this thing up?
Well, all I want to say is that I'm very, very thankful to you, Gil, for giving me this opportunity, for not forgetting about us, because wartime, it really shows who is who. And it's interesting. There have been people that we were not very, very closely in touch with, but they really care about us. And there have been some people that I thought that they're like really very close friend of ours. And some people even said that they're afraid that I'm calling them because I'm calling from a war country. So it's, people react very differently in extreme situations. So we're just very thankful, Gil, for who you are, for your attitude, for your support, and thank you. It's it feels very human, very nice.
When you said not forgetting about us, it brought tears to my eyes.
Oh,
So I will not forget about you.
thank you, Gil.
And
We are
I'm
meeting
surrounded.
in June.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. Really, that's very exciting to me. I just learned about that before we started this call, and I am surrounded by people who are not forgetting about you. So we'll do our best to keep supporting Ukraine through our government also.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Gil, you had an amazing day. This was really fun. I really liked talking to you and telling about my experience. I hope that it will be enjoyable or informative a little bit to people to listen. And I will just repeat once again, it's very subjective. I'm talking not on behalf of the entire academy, but just my personal experience. And to everybody who will be listening to this, I wish everybody an amazing day and really value small things. They are important, like electricity. It's super important. Water. Oh my God. It's so nice to have water, to be able to do the laundry whenever you want, to take shower whenever you want. These things are important.
They're very important, and it makes me ashamed for times when I have whined about a small disruption. So I just am honored to have you on this podcast, Kanykei. Thank you very much. And I am not going to let go of the idea of taking Lewin's first paper and maybe interviewing you again and writing an updated version, because most people have never read it anyway. So it might be a way of honoring Lewin also, or as you pronounce it, correctly in your region, Levine is how my father pronounced it. Levin, I think you pronounce it Levin. Anyway, yeah. So I'll be getting back to you on that, and I think that's a wrap on today's conversation. So thank you again so much for being a guest.
Thank you, Gil.
Okay, so and please, anyone who wants to help get in contact with me, I will stick the link on the podcast page that Kanykei mentioned. And do not forget the people of Ukraine. If what they said in Germany was they came for the Jews, they came for the gay people, they came for, and I said nothing, and finally they came for me, and there was no one less to help me. And so, we must not, we must help everyone who's fighting oppression everywhere, or we are part of the reason the oppression wins. So,
thank you, Gil, for being who you are.
Well, I appreciate that.
For having the values that you have. Not everybody would have courage to say words like this. And I hope to talk to you again soon.
I look forward to it.
Bye.
Okay, I'm going to hang this thing up. You take care. Hey, I appreciate you listening. This, again, is Gil Crosby. And I want you to take advantage of what's available to you. I have many free materials. I am happy to talk to people about their situations, especially if you're trying to create change, either social change or organization change. We have frequent workshops that are available, T group workshops. If you have never been in a T group with us, then don't miss it in your life. It's many people have said to me, of all the trainings I've ever received, I got this one 30 years ago, and it's the only one that stuck with me. You're learning from your actual interactions with the other participants and with the faculty. The faculty are walking the same talk that they're teaching of behavioral skills. It's a training workshop. That's what the T stands for. This is done in the spirit of the creation of T groups by Kurt Lewin and his associates. It's for groups. It's for teams. That's how it was originally designed. It is a opportunity to learn about theory and put it directly into practice. Again, the original design, you learn things and then you put them into practice. It was not just all ambiguity, which is how some T groups, most are led today, where the faculty hardly says anything. That's not how this is designed. So join us for that. There's always workshops. There's the Leadership Institute of Seattle, which has certificate programs, a two-year program where you will learn from T groups and learn how to do all the organization development work that my father designed, most of it, and I continue that practice alongside my brother Chris and many other associates. So don't be a stranger. There's a lot going on. It's always changing. So be in touch, and it's on the website, crosbyod.com. I look forward to working with you in your organization or as you pursue things like reducing gun violence and decreasing racism in our society. Whatever your goals are, the social science of Kurt Lewin guides how to achieve those goals in a reliable way. And so that's what I apply and practice every day and invite you to.